Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Simple Fix. I am your host, Olivia Yoko, and I have a very special guest here today. I would love to introduce you to my best friend, Michael. Say hi, Michael.
Hi, everyone.
We are here in Michael's beautiful showroom. We also are recording this and are going to be uploading it on YouTube. So if you're listening on Spotify,
Join us.
Definitely take a look. You got to see it. You got to see it to kind of get the whole idea and picture, especially with what we are going to be talking about today. So
Yes,
I'm super excited because I think that Michael is such a perfect example of finding balance in career and life and creating a peaceful space and sanctuary. And I talk so much about the circle of life and the 12 elements within that. And it's everything from your finances to your hobbies to your home environment. And I think that us having this conversation where we're going to, discuss all of the things that come with being a business owner and creating a lifestyle that is fulfilling and peaceful and life-giving for yourself. I think it's the perfect conversation to have with you. And without further ado, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
of course. First, I'm honored. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Outside of interior design and furniture, peace has always been a big part of who I am and how to maintain that in the midst of business and life and Los Angeles. For those who don't know, we are in Los Angeles, and it is a crazy city. I not only have a huge heart for interior design and for furniture and arts, but also for learning lifestyle of peace and learning how to implement that, not just in your daily life, but also be an example for people in other areas. And I feel like I've learned how to do that for myself well in the last couple of years with my business, which my business is called Lui Trova. It means he finds in Italian.
Yes.
It's not where it started. The name has evolved and everything has evolved. It's been honestly 3 years of just the evolution of my brand that honestly came out of a place of need, not of want. I actually didn't want to be an interior designer. I didn't want to be in furniture or this kind of business. It just fell into my lap. I moved here in 2020 from Orange County, and COVID just kind of took all my jobs. I was previously working in the fashion industry, taking photos and working just fully in that scene. And it just completely changed. All of my jobs fell through. I moved here a month before the pandemic, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And I think we all felt that way. But for me, I think I had worked so hard to get to the moment to move to LA that everything was kind of pushing me to be here for that one thing, and I think we all get to that point in our lives where I'm finally making the decision to do something for myself that's big and it's going to take a lot of risk. And then everything gets ripped from you. And I'm not saying I'm not the only one. A lot of people can relate. But it definitely was a big pivot for me to figure out if I was going to continue to pursue photography or if I was going to try to figure something else out. The journey started from the simplicity of just meeting a need. And the need for me was to furnish my home that I was living with 4 other people at the time. In K-Town. Which was crazy. I didn't think anything of it. We currently had 3 couches in our living room, and I was like, we are not a frat house. We are not, what are we doing? This is not happening. We're all grown-ass adults.
Every day you're walking in and you're like, this is disgusting. Why I don't feel peaceful. 100%. I don't feel excited to go home.
It came out of a place of needing peace. And for me, I didn't know how to put a home together, but I knew how to make something feel restful. And I think I was just searching for the element of rest within a place and time for everyone where there was so much unknown and chaos just constantly with protests and COVID, and it just every day something new was on the news, and I was like, I need to do something with my time, And so honestly, Lui Trova came out of a place before it even was a brand, before it was a business, before it was anything. It was a means to drive an hour and a half to go pick up a table that I found on Facebook Marketplace because I thought it was sick, and it was like $30, and I was like, dope. I want to have a nice coffee table in my living room. And I did that a couple times, found a couple coffee tables. At that time, I knew nothing about design. You know. Yeah. I'm like, I tried. I really tried. It was, maybe Pinterest inspired, or like more so out of a place of just like trying to put a room together so people like could put a drink on a coffee table. It was really not out of a place of like necessity to feel grounded or feel like something that I created or owned when I walked into a room.
Right.
And so really I ended up with multiple coffee tables and was like, what do you do with 2 coffee tables? Because I don't want 3 couches and I don't want 2 coffee tables.
I'm going to sell it.
Exactly. So that's how it started. It started from relisting one of the tables on Facebook after I kind of staged it in my living room, and just got like 30 plus messages. It turned into a bid war, honestly.
Yeah.
I was like, are we really this crazy right now that we cannot find? And then after I put the pieces together, I was like, oh, in reality, all the manufacturers are not like working. Like no one is out here making coffee tables. People can't place orders. Like, and so I was like, oh, people really just want to make their home feel special, you know? And so I kept doing it. I ended up selling these stools for a season.
I
remember. There's probably a lot of people. Anyways, I started selling these stools as just a means to like flip, make some extra cash off Facebook. Everything started on Facebook. And for me, it was more so I had a really hard time being on unemployment. I didn't think I was in that much need at that time.
Right.
Even though I was. We all were.
Right.
And I was like, I probably said it to myself too much. I was like, I don't need that. I can figure it out, And it's crazy though, because we were all in the same place. And it finally felt, now I look back on it and I'm like, wow, we were all at the same place at the same time. And we all were in need. Not everyone. Some people had some extra cash, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the clients we were working with.
But I think everyone at that time was in need of peace. And I think everyone was striving to find or make their home feel restful.
Right.
And even the people that had all of the cash to spend on whatever they want, them being home was not peaceful. And that's a scary thing, is that the place that you reside in, and that should be the safest place for you,
right,
it doesn't feel peaceful. And I think that's like a huge reality check. And through the process, this has developed the understanding of all of this over time for me. But in the moment, I was just like, how do I find my own peace? I'm stressing out. And if I can't come home, or if I'm stuck in a home with no peace, I'm like, I need to fix this.
Yeah, you lose your mind. And I feel like you tapped into a need. Like every business has that model where there is a problem, and oftentimes that problem starts with something that you've recognized within yourself.
Exactly.
Of, oh my gosh, there is a lack of this in the marketplace, and I feel like I found a solution. And that's really what you did, but you tapped into it. Instead of it being a product that you created, it's an experience, and it's that feeling of peace. And so it's through that furniture, it's through the things that you source. And because you have such a good eye, and you've always had an amazing eye, hence the reason you are an incredible photographer, and it's taking the gifts that you had and using it just in a different way, because it's multifaceted. There's not just one way to be able to use the things that you're skilled at. And you were able to take that and transform it into something different. I think that's something that people lack. They don't have the ability to have like that deep understanding of themselves and that deep purpose within themselves to be able to pivot in that way.
For sure.
And I think that's what I love so much about being able to see all of this kind of happen and play out, is you trusted yourself enough to take that leap. And you kind of had mentioned that in the beginning, where you were saying how you did it out of necessity. You weren't doing it just because you were like, well, I've got all this time on my hands, I might as well just start a new business.
Yeah.
It came out of a deep need.
Yeah.
And from that need came all of this.
Yeah.
And And that is what I love so much, is it wasn't planned necessarily.
No, not at all.
And you just kind of went for it. And then you continued to take the next best step forward.
Yeah.
And that's what I always try to remind myself of, and even like my clients and everything, that we don't have to have all of the answers. If you were telling yourself this 3 years ago, that you would have an entire showroom full of incredible pieces, you would be like, you're cuckoo, like you're crazy, because you couldn't have seen that. You wouldn't have been able to have the foresight for that. You just continued to move forward in it. And so my question to you is, what continued to motivate you as you were sourcing these pieces? What was it that like kind of reaffirmed and assured you in like, I'm going in the right direction. Like, this is the right step for me to take?
No, for sure. I think everything is found in the name. And so it used to be Stark Finds. Stark is my last name. And it transitioned into Lui Trova because I'm have Italian roots. And after making the Instagram account and sitting with a friend, we're like, Stark Finds is stupid. We're like, that's a dumb name. Like, really, if you want to build a brand, you're like, not like, it sounded like a little teenager. You're like, I don't know, like, maybe it could be my Facebook marketplace name or something.
Like a little like a thrift account that you take like random photos of.
But I really do think that not just my business statement, but also the energy that comes from my brand is in that name. And and when I say that, it falls back on a need for something. And I think that I've had this conversation with people before, desire versus intention. And I desired a lot of things when I moved to LA. I desired to make it big within fashion, like fashion photography. I wanted to do all these things. I desired to be known and to be seen and to be recognized. But my intention was to have close relationships with people, was to build community, was to bring what I knew, peace, and my relationship initially and still today with God into Los Angeles. And for people to experience that was what needed to be my intention, you know?
Right.
And I think over time, those things get skewed because you get so caught up in it. But I think it's always rooted. For me, I love that it's rooted in my name. And I was like, I need to be intentional about something, which is meeting a need for myself first, because if you don't meet your own need, you're not able to meet other people's needs.
Exactly.
You know? This is why we listen to her podcast.
Oh my gosh.
But it was, for me, I think I was blind in it, but I knew deep down inside what I needed to do. I was like, I need to find place. I need to be in a peace in my home. I need to find an intention for myself to bring peace to my home, because there's so much chaos going on. I have control only what I have control over.
Right.
And if I come home and that one thing that I have control over in my space is out of control, and I can't set a safe place for myself, then everything else is going to feel out of whack.
Right.
And so I think the beauty of that is it first started with me. It started with the place of meeting a need for myself, and then also meeting the need for the people in my home too. I was like, I want to do life with you guys, but we are like stressed. Like this is chaos. We just like, you know what I mean? Like I want us to have a dining table like, so we can eat dinner together. Like simple, you know, intentions. And so, and then from that, community was huge. I came here hoping to build community.
Right.
And we couldn't hang out with people. Like I couldn't get coffee with people. Like I love meeting new people and just getting to know them. So when I moved to LA, I was very, very like frustrated with that. And I think when I started selling stuff, I was like, wow, I can use this as a means to build those relationships that I would have never, ever have been able to build. And I look back 3 years later and I'm like, how do I have these people messaging me on Instagram? Like what? I mean, like, honestly, I didn't go to school for this. Half the time I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm in full-time school, like just learning about design, learning about all of this stuff. And I think it's cool because I can be intentional with those people through and through. It's like when they come to my showroom now, it's like the first thing I want people to feel is like safe. Like I just want people to feel safe.
Right.
I honestly, sometimes I don't care if people buy anything. I just want people to feel like they're seen and they're in a safe place, and that like this could be a reality. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we have, what we're doing, and all these things. Obviously, my stuff is not priced like cheap. I have to run a business.
But you also live in LA, and
exactly.
He's not going to say this, but like the people that DM him, y'all know who they are. Okay, you got some A-listers.
I mean, like it really is. I mean, it really is God that put me here, you know, in that place. And I'll have people that I've seen, you know, on shows or movies ask if they can come to the showroom, and I'm like, I still feel like I'm humbled, but I'm also like, why me? Or like, why my stuff, you know? But I think in reality, people are like, I want to feel that in my home. I want to see that in my home, you know? And I think when people are drawn to what I do, a lot of the times it's because I've found peace in my reality, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think for me, it always falls back, like I said, on the name. And if I can find that intention to do that for myself first, then in my business, people can see that and they'll want that. And it's a means to build that relationship with them, to help them find that in their home.
The way that I see it is, you know, I talk about self-connection so much. And I think that people have this misconception of self-connection being isolation.
Yeah.
And really, it's only a means to, it's a freeway to connection with other people. We are unable to connect with ourselves and understand our mission in life, our goals, our values in life, and our intention behind the things that we do. We are always going to be coming up against walls with other people.
100%.
Because how are we supposed to extend anything to anybody when we're barely holding on to it ourselves? Everything that you've created is a testament to that you found that problem and you were able to solve it within yourself and create that peace. And that's what attracts people to you. And, you know, and you talk about God and how really you're taking those steps with him. I couldn't do any of this without that. Like I can, you know, try to do it all in my own strength, but it's not me doing it. It's me doing it with someone still.
And I think just to go off of that, for me at first, it was a need for structure and peace, you know, and then when I found that, I was able to give that away. But through the process of building a business and the process of scaling something, that again gets challenged. Your intention gets challenged.
Completely.
And it's never been like a once you get it, you got it. It's instilled in you, but you also have to live it out. And the process of building a business comes with a lot of sacrifice. It comes with a lot of hardship, and it comes with low energy.
A lot of tears.
And I think from those places, when I had to it's like COVID 2.0 for me. You know, it's like you're hit with all of these new things that you've never experienced, and you're so challenged, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I continue to live out of this intention, not just for myself, but my business and for others? It's like, then all of that gets scrambled, and you're like, I have to fall back on something.
Right.
You know, and that fallback for me is God every time. And if I don't do that, then I'm not able to actually like continue moving forward. Even when it's like, okay, things are so slow, there's no sales, and you're like stressed, and you're like, how do I move inventory, or how do I do something different? Like you get so caught up in like the LA culture of like, you have to be on top of it. People are doing new things all the time. It's like not just fast fashion, because everything is turned into fast fashion.
Right.
You know, like every industry is like, if it's not working today, then change it tomorrow. No, if it's not working today, reinvent yourself with what you have. You know, not with something brand new, completely different, and you spend a bunch of money to do it.
Exactly.
No, learn how to use what you have to reinvent what you're already doing. And for me, it's like, okay, it's always like, God, how do I do this? And then it's like, okay, actions, what do I have? You know, and then from there, you're able to kind of snowball effect. And it's clear now. It's not always clear. You know, there's seasons where you're like, months, and you're like, what do I do with my life? Is this even working anymore? You know? And then all of a sudden, it's like, this goes back to a couple weeks ago. It's like I was, sales were slow.
Mm-hmm.
All I had was my space. I didn't want to create content because things aren't selling.
Right.
What do? Figure out a new way to create content.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out a new way to make what you have feel different, not just for other people, but for myself,
Yes.
So I was able to create something, and that video ended up picking up traction and more people saw what I'm doing, and I think sometimes we think that we have to completely scratch everything and start over every single time.
I think about like the end of our strength. Yeah. There's always something else. And if we get to the end of our ability and our strength, like God is going to give us a leg up, but we have to get to that point. Yeah. And I think that's something that people avoid, is they avoid towing that line of failure, towing that line of, okay, well, I don't know what's next. Yeah. And that is the scary part, but that's where trusting yourself and taking risks. Yeah. That's where the reward is. Yeah. And I think about, my podcast, or I think about the things that I do on a daily basis, where if I didn't send that email that I was really afraid to send, that I wouldn't have this connection and this client. And if I was too afraid to post things on TikTok, I wouldn't have this community. And there is an element of just moving past our fear and moving past that feeling of that fear of failure and disappointment and staying in the tension. I think that is something that I've been reflecting on a lot. I had a conversation with my brother just a little bit ago about how there has been such an exponential amount of growth in my life recently, but it also has been an exponential amount of discomfort. Yeah. I think that you would echo this. If none of this happened because you were comfortable.
No, not at all.
It's like it makes you like want to itch, and you're like, how am I living in this space of discomfort? But that's the only place that we're able to grow, and that's the only place that we can evolve. Yeah. And I would take that over being comfortable and stagnant any day.
Yeah, I get that. I think majority of my adult life, it was the lie that I was believing was around fear. Yeah. Like, if I start, will I fail? Or once I get through it, I'm not going to get to where I want to be, And I think the beauty of my business now is that it never was my intention to start it like the business. Yeah. My intention was to find peace and to create a home. Yep. And from starting even something else, it's always resulted in something bigger. I think a lot of the times when people are like, I'm going to make money, I'm going to go start a business. Dope. You can do that anyway. But is it going to fulfill you, or is it going to fulfill other people? Also, it's probably going to be a lot harder with that intention.
Because it's coming from a motivation of
desire.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think about like all of the years that I was like, I'm going to be a content creator and I'm going to make all this money and I'm going to become an influencer. And then the moment that I actually don't want it.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens. And I'm like, this is paying my bills.
Yeah.
How is this paying my bills? Like, how am I even doing this? Yeah. And it was because it came from a necessity of like, I need to create. Yeah. I need to take the skills that I have and use it in some way. Yeah. And it's not always to the benefit of me. Yeah. Sometimes it's to further somebody else's dream. Sometimes it's to affirm somebody else in their own journey.
Yeah. Which is what I love about you, because I think when you say when it started to pick up for you was when you were intentional about sharing things that were maybe a little bit more vulnerable. Also were harder to get on camera. And those are the things that no one really wants to share.
But it's the most connecting
thing. I want to share my freaking nice vibe, my car, my house, my atmosphere, so that people can see that I'm doing well. Like, people don't want to share that I'm not doing good to relate to people, even though there's beauty in sharing that, but it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to allow people to see the depth. But that's literally your intention was for people to see they're not alone. and from that you received so much more than you expected.
Way
and
more.
You're still receiving because that's still your intention. The moment when those things get skewed, and the moment when you're becoming more desire filled with possessions and things and wanting to be some sort of whatever amount to something, thinking that you can get to a finish line,
right,
is when you get blurry and things slow down and people don't care anymore.
And that's when people seriously, and
people just fall off.
We were literally, we were talking about that, about the pipeline of people becoming unrelatable.
Yeah.
And it's because they lose that vulnerability. My desire is to provide people with a safe space to feel heard and understood and seen, and not alone in our very human experience.
Yeah. It's like we want to be human, but not human all at the same time. It's like, I'm a human, but I don't want to feel like a human. I'm like, come on, grow up. I think the beauty of it is that we all are. And I think that's why I don't always talking about COVID, but I think for me, I always look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all going through the same thing. We've always gone through pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. We've just chosen not to.
You were born, you learned how to walk, you learned how to speak, you learned how to eat and poop and whatever you want.
I was about to say, we all poop.
No one wants to talk about that, but we all do it, and I think it's the beauty of it is that we are very similar. We're all looking for connection. We're all looking for hope. We're all looking for vision. We're all looking for a sense of purpose.
We're all looking for beauty.
But we have it, and we have access to it. And I think that's where I always fall back on desire versus intention.
Yeah.
And I think that if we set our intention to pursue those and not be so fixated on consumption and desire of things, and we really take care of ourselves so that we can be a blessing to other people, there's so much, and it literally comes back. It really is. It's you give so much to people, you're good. God's got you. It'll come back to you. You will receive. Don't worry.
Yep.
Don't stress. Continue to be intentional and just live out of that.
I forever think about that picture of open hands. It's so easy for me to hold on to what I have and not want to give it and not want to release it. But how are you supposed to receive anything when your fists are clenched and when you're holding on to what you have? And what if there's so much more that is meant for you and you can't receive it, even if somebody tries to hand it to you? What are you going to do?
Yeah. And not like this either, too. Because we like this, too. They're like, I give you this, but you ain't had none of this. That's for sure.
I'll give you, oh my God, I only have one hand. Here you go. Here you go. I'll give you this.
I get it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a really hard place to live, but I think you find that the fulfillment of it makes the hardship worth it.
Yep.
Every time. We both have had seasons of this and this and this.
And this.
and the fists up.
The fighting phase.
Bop, bop. But we realize that it's if we don't live with an intention to be open-handed, even with I always say it's Lui Trova is beautiful. If I have to shift and do something completely different because this isn't what it's happening for me, I'm okay with that.
Right.
I've done that before multiple times. But it's everything that I've taken from here comes with me.
Right. Because you didn't just build a business, you're building yourself.
Yeah.
And whatever it is that you do, it will follow.
Yeah.
And I hope that is the message that people can receive, is that it doesn't have to be just a creative space where you're a content creator or you are creating beautiful spaces for people to live and work and shop in. Yeah. You could work a corporate job. You could be a doctor. You could be anything, but it's what is within you. It's the core. I have another episode about this. about building your life like a business and having your values and your mission and your vision, because those things don't change.
Yeah.
The product can change, the marketing strategy can change, how you live your life can change, but who you are in it does not change.
Yeah.
And that is what sticks with you and goes through every single season, every single business idea, every single relationship. And when you're able to build that up and be firm and so connected with that, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
You can do anything. It's still scary and it's still hard.
Yeah, because we're human.
But you're not alone.
And I think that is the beauty of sharing it too. I think the more people realize that they're not alone, the more that people would actually do.
Yeah.
You know, they would be more intentional to work on themselves, because they, oh my gosh, O's doing this with me.
Yeah.
You know, she's put in the work. I want to put in the work, you know? Or, you know, for me, it's like, people reach out and they're like, I want to do what you're doing. And how did you start? I'm like,
I just
Facebook.
did. Like,
you know,
like
it wasn't, and then Facebook. I mean, but the thing is I think people, they reach a certain point where it's too scary to even understand how they started. You're like, I can't get there. And I think for me, I want to lower the barrier of entry for not just business, but just for people to understand that, like, we all started somewhere. Some people had more money than others. It doesn't matter. They still were challenged with the hardship of maintaining and creating out of a place of intention. You know, and they could be scaling, making hella money and being so rich, but their desires are so consuming that they don't even know how to take care of themselves. And they wake up and the first thing they do is work, and the last thing they do is work. And the desire of that is going to consume you. And you can't give to other people when you're constantly taking. I don't have to be worried about being in LA where everyone around me is doing that, and being scared that I'm going to feed, that's going to feed into my reality, because my home is where I set my intentions. It's where it starts. And you talk about this all the time. And in your life, it's like, if you do not do that for yourself, the first thing, you wake up, set intention. And the rest of the day, you're able to do that for other people, you know? But it's hard.
I mean, it's living out of an overflow, because we all can relate to this, where we don't fill our cup first. Somebody's going to try to drink from it. They're going to drink the whole thing. And then you're going to be like, I'm empty. And nobody's going to fill it. Who's going to fill it? Because they're only taking. You're the only one that can fill it.
It's true.
And
days I'll go out all day and be like, I'm drained. And it's because, oh wait, everyone took from me all day. But that's okay, because hopefully in the morning and the night before, I started with filling myself up. You know, so that I wasn't below, you know, E when people started taking from me.
But yes, I completely agree that you have to fill your own cup first before you go and fill others. And especially in a fast-paced atmosphere like LA. And I love that you even have those boundaries where, you know, you can go to this event and there's all the who's and what's. But you're like, this actually is not going to fill my cup. Like, I'm going to go home and spend some intentional time with the people that are closest to me. And I'm going to fill my cup. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to go to the sauna and I'm going to, you know, relax. And it's understanding that, like, you don't have to be afraid of missing out on everything. And that what is meant for you will come to you. It will be there, whether you chase after it or not.
For the people that are listening, the only way to understand the balance of it is to learn. You know, I had the season of the opposite, where I was only being filled and I only gave myself time and I only was doing things for myself. You know, there's nothing initially wrong with that. But if you're not giving that away, then you're just you were literally going to drown in yourself. You're going to drown in consumption of self, you know? And then just like being empty, like it's going to kill you either way. There's a balance of like, you know, giving and receiving that's only going to sustain. Because if not, then you're literally just on the opposite spectrum, you know, which I feel like in a slow city or in a place that's really safe and peaceful, like where I used to live, Orange County.
Yeah, we miss you, OC.
We love you, OC, but like so slow. And I'm like, dang, I got so much time to be filled, you know? And it's like, I look back and I'm like, dang, I went from polar opposite spectrum. I went from only giving myself time and energy and filling myself and taking care of myself to like only giving and feeling, you know, in the past couple of years with my business and picking up design jobs where I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's taking from me. I have no time. I have no energy. But then I wake up and I'm like, take from me. I'm like, I know, don't take from me. Like I need to take care of myself.
Seriously.
You know? And then I have to fall back on those seasons and be like, how did I do that well? What was actually important?
Yeah.
And I can only take a few of those things with me. Because I don't have that time anymore.
Yep.
You know, I have to only take and prioritize those things. It's like, okay, if it's an hour in the gym or hitting the sauna for 20 minutes or the simplicity of like, I have no time today. I just need to drink my lemon water. It's like they're little things that if I can be intentional about, at least I have something. And not every day is the same. I wish it was. It would be nice. But I think adapting to that and just being okay with like maybe one or two. I don't need all that today.
Yeah.
But I need something to give away. You know, I need to be present in some areas of my life, you know?
Well, that's the whole premise of a Simple Fix podcast is I spent so many years trying to do it all. And you're drained by 9 a.m. because it's too much and it's not sustainable and it's not effective in the end. And what works for you is like you woke up this morning and you went to the gym.
Yeah.
I laid in bed. I stayed, I chilled. Yeah. But I still found my space of filling myself up. But now we're going to go throughout the rest of the day and be able to give that away and have that balance. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant and it doesn't have to be what the next person does either. That's a piece that people miss and that they lose, especially when it comes to the comparison of on social media and how easy it is to look at somebody else's day and think, oh my gosh, okay, they're thriving. I need to do this. 100%. And you can take inspiration, but you should not be imitating other people's lives. Yep. It is that simple. But simplicity does not equal ease. And I think people forget that. Just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's easy. It still takes work.
Yeah.
It still takes intentionality and self-accountability. Yep. I don't want to edit my podcasts sometimes.
But we'll do the harder things more than we will the simple, unfortunately.
Right?
I'm like, I do not want to send a bunch of emails, but I need to do them. I also need to drink some water in the morning.
Yeah.
But I wake up and do all the emails.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what?
I'm like, I'm procrastinating.
How is not even like, it's like 30 seconds versus 2 hours. Let me do the 2 hour one because I think it's more important. But no, it's like I cannot do the 2 hour as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe it could be an hour if I would have just done the one little thing.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, it's really hard to maintain. But I think once you see how it affects and how much of a difference it plays into your life, you start to learn that you can't live without certain things.
Right.
By certain things, I don't mean things you desire. I think there are things that really affect those areas of your life where they're like, no, this is a necessity.
I experienced that, especially with somebody who has these goals and these desires to be highly productive. And you have to have your priorities set and aligned in order for you to be able to make those simple things easier.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to try to do it, it's just going to be hard. There's more room for inconsistencies and a lack of balance when you choose work over life. With you now being an expert in creating a sanctuary and a place of peace, what are the elements that make a peace-filled home?
I think first the way that I would start would be that everyone has a different way of feeling rested and peaceful. By my name, Lui Trova, my intention is that people see that it's things that bring me peace. It's not always going to be the same things that bring you peace. But I think the beauty of it is that it's centered around home. And that's where you should find the first element of rest and peace. Because if you cannot find that in your home,
Not gonna find
you're
it
really,
else.
trust me, you're not going to find it outside your home. You know, I find it with God everywhere I go. If we're talking about physical things and creating an environment and space, I've used the word intention a ton, which
Keep using it
because it's just I think it's a powerful word for me, because I think things without intention are just things. This could be a throw to keep the white couch from getting dirty. But for me, these come from a place where someone's put a lot of hard work into. They're also something that makes the couch feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
I could just leave it as is and whatever, but I think I'm seeing a new way it lives. And I think that not just with design, that's just our lives. We move things around. We see how it lives different. I'm constantly moving stuff. You know, it could look beautiful and somebody be like, don't do anything. And I'm like, it needs to live a new way. Anything you have in your home, you don't have to go out and buy new things. If you don't have the money for that, don't push yourself to desire that. Be intentional about recreating it. You know, finding new ways things can live and allow them to breathe a new way. Just start with that, and that grows. Yeah.
Like cleanliness.
Oh,
for me.
100%. We ain't trying not to be clean.
Yes, yeah. And
But-
even simplifying, I think sometimes there's this expectation that you have to have all of these things, like you
for
were
sure.
saying, for it to be a home, when really it's, how can I use this in a different way? How can I make this an outward reflection of me? Like the way that you style your home is an outward expression what you have inside.
Yeah.
If your house is a hot mess, is that the outward expression of how you feel on the inside?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it might be that you have to do a little inner work first.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we talked about this whole time.
100%.
Doing a little inner work before you do the outer work, before you change the space. Think about my home. It's clean. There's simplicity. It allows me to have the space to think and the space to create without having the clutter and the distractions. Yes, there are things that I really like. Like I love my linens and I love my Vitruvi diffusers, but it's not necessarily the things. It's just the expression of it. It's a means to feeling that way all the time.
I have a simple, not really analogy, example is I love elements that are obviously abstract or different than seen in a home, because like the coffee table is made from 30-year-old wood that's been underwater, and it's a simple build, but it's the beauty of something that has like been around for forever. The first thing that came to mind was I like stones. I put them on books as book stoppers, or I use them as a
like paperweight,
foundation. Paperweight, or I use them as a foundation for Palo Santo. And I think the beauty of it is like you have a stone and you have a stick, and that's design. And it not only it looks pretty on a table to me, it might not to you, but it also creates an essence and a smell that to me brings peace. And it relaxes me, and it also creates an environment that makes me feel in a city that I'm in nature. And it's like so simple. And out of like everything, I could have this like $20,000 chair or like this crazy thing, and I will love my rock and stick more than that, because I think that's really what internally is changing my the presence of the room and how I feel inside. And it's like you light it, you put it on the rock, and you just let it smoke up the room. It's the beauty of it is that in simplicity, to me, it's what brings me the most peace in my room. The first thing I want to do when people come into my showroom is light a candle and put my Palo Santo and just allow people to walk in and feel like they're not downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was walking down the street today.
You're going to get every smell under the sun, baby. It smell like out there. Like that's something for me. I think that answers your question. Like an element or something that brings peace or to my space or to any space. Don't overcomplicate it. Let it be as simple as possible.
And in order for it to be as simple as possible and to be something that you enjoy, you got to know yourself. You got to know what you enjoy. You got to know
Exactly.
what your favorite things are. I have one last question for you, Michael.
Hit me.
This podcast is called The Simple Fix. What is your simple fix? What is the thing that you can always go to that will put you in a better mood or put you back into alignment? What is that one simple fix that you always can rely on?
Being at peace with myself without anything.
Mm.
You know, and that's with being at peace with myself, with God and myself, in any situation. And I think that's not making excuses for my surroundings. Because I could say, I don't have this, this, and this. I no longer have peace. I can be in any atmosphere. And if I'm at peace with myself and with God, then I'm like, I know I'm secure. Versus thinking that I need my beautiful couch and a cup of tea to feel peace. The actual practical things, you know, like for me, that helps me is obviously the gym, sauna. Those are things that I like try to implement in my day. Having a healthy diet. Those are practical things. But at the end of the day, if I do all those and don't spend time with myself and God, I still feel empty.
Yeah.
You know, I still don't feel like I'm fully myself. I might feel good. My body feels good. I'm loose. I'm relaxed. But I'm like, there's still something that wasn't filled today.
Yeah.
It falls back to our whole conversation. Don't let your desire consume your intention. You know?
Yeah.
And I think it will if you allow it to. Regardless, business or self-consumption of trying to overtake care of yourself or overtake care of your business, those desires can distract you from what my intention is to know who I am, because that's how God made me.
Yep.
And what he says about me and what stands true.
Yes.
And so if I can do that, it's fuel for the rest of everything else. And people get to receive that too. I guess that's my simple fix.
Yes. But really what I hear you saying is the source of peace is within you.
100%.
And everything else is just a means of keeping the peace.
Yeah.
Right? Like your space, working out, eating good food, all of those things help keep the peace.
100%.
Because you can have it within you, but then it, like, if it just kind of goes everywhere, it's not going to land anywhere. And these are places that it can land so that you can
I love that.
feel
I
at
absolutely
peace.
love that.
You're the source, and we're trying to just keep the peace.
Yeah. We create the peace. Because it comes from within you. We are searching for it everywhere. We're trying to find peace in something. But if we have that understanding, like you said, I ain't got to go anywhere for it. Like, I have it here, you know, like God lives in me. I draw from that place, you know, of peace where I know who I am because I know what God says about me. You see everything else as a blessing rather than a curse or like a distraction or, you know, a burden.
Changes your perspective completely. I
Yeah.
talk about that all the time, about rewiring and identifying the lie that lives within you and that you've agreed with and replacing it with the truth.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. If we believe that our peace has to come from outside sources, that's a lie. That's like not true.
Yeah.
And if we continue to believe that, then we're going to continue to feel
look for it.
And feel lost and feel unfulfilled and incomplete.
Yeah.
But when we can recognize the truth behind it and begin to affirm ourselves in that and say, I forgive myself for believing this for so long, but the truth about me is I already have everything that I need. And from that, nothing's going to offend me. Nothing's going to derail me. It might try. But you always have something that you can go back to. This is just so special, and I'm so excited for everybody to listen. Go follow Lui Trova on Instagram. I will have everything in the show notes so you can kind of take a look at all of his incredible, beautiful pieces that he has sourced and business that he has crafted and the space. And hopefully you'll get inspiration to be able to create a safe and peaceful sanctuary for you and find balance that comes from yourself and outward rather than trying to grab at everything that is in the world and bring it to you, because it just doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. And we've tried it. I promise. We've tried it. It doesn't work.
Try it if you want. But
don't say we didn't warn you.
Always.
But thank you so much for listening
Yeah.
to today's episode. And I will see you next Monday.
Bye.